I want to welcome all those who are watching us on YouTube. And I want to emphasize before I start that this is an incredibly important lesson. It doesn't seem that way when you first start because it's purely doctrinal. But how important is doctrine? This particular lesson, what happens to us when we die, clears up so many falsehoods. But I also have a special message for Protestants out there that are on the fence. You're hearing strong messages from your church and your preacher. Protestantism has very good preachers. The problem is they are preaching the wrong doctrine. So once again, how important is doctrine? The word doctrine means instruction. It teaches us the right way to think and the right way to behave. Well, how important is thinking right and behaving right? Well, that's everything. And I think if you're watching this, you probably agree with me. So we need to get it right. Now, we do have a standard. We have the Holy Scriptures. The devil did not leave the Holy Scriptures alone. The Scriptures, not the original, but the translations of them and subsequent copies in the original language have been tainted. But it is a tainting that Yahweh has given us tools to unravel. So we are not defenseless here, and He protects His word. However, you cannot take the translations of the Bible on face value, especially those in the Brit Hadashah or New Testament. You do have to do your homework. You do have to do your own investigation. Yahweh blesses this effort because this is how we draw close to Him. We draw close to Him because He's not physically here. He's in heaven. But we draw close to Him when we draw closer to the Word. The Word, of course, is Yeshua the Messiah. So when we talk about Him abiding in us and us abiding in Him, He literally means the Word, the law of Yahweh abiding in us. And that's what governs our behavior. That, by the way, is the New Testament, or more properly, the renewed covenant. You will find that in Jeremiah chapter 31, verses 31 through 34. That is the renewed covenant, of which, when the Messiah kept the Passover for the last time and broke the bread and gave the wine for others to drink, not Himself, He announced that this is the bread of and the wine of the renewed covenant. That covenant first spoken of by Yirmiyahu or Jeremiah in Jeremiah's book, chapter 31. And it says partly that I will write my law upon their mind and upon their hearts. He did not say I'm going to write my grace on their mind and on their hearts. Grace is very important. We don't get to do anything or enjoy anything good without Yahweh's grace, because let me be clear about this in every lesson that I teach. Because Protestants, you will be faced with this argument. If you're trying to keep the law, you're trying to earn salvation. We are keepers of the law, and we do not do it to earn salvation. That's a lie of the devil. It's an argument of the devil. It is a doctrine of the devil. No one earns salvation. No one earns salvation. No one. No one can measure up to Yahweh's standard of perfection except His Son. He earned salvation for us who believe. But the brother of Messiah, Yaakov, you know him as James, who wrote the gospel, the book of James, the epistle of James, makes it abundantly clear that sitting on the couch and believing isn't good enough. Belief without works is dead. We keep the law because we're saved. And there is the litmus test. If you think you're saved, but you're not convinced and motivated with a sense of urgency to never sin again. Translation, to keep Yahweh's law. Sin is the transgression of the law. That's what required the death of Messiah. To proclaim his name over your life as the Lord of your life and then go on sinning is the height of hypocrisy. If sin is what required his sacrifice, then what will continuing to sin do? Hello, somebody. Add it up. This whole thing is confused because of two simple problems. This is a time of spiritual warfare, so when you're at war, you have no room for flowery technique. Your technique has to get right to the point, quick, fast, and in a hurry, so you can move on to the next battle. We have to be clear in our speech. This is not a time, as when Messiah was here, to speak in allegory or symbolism, but to unveil and reveal allegory and symbolism so that it is clear. So what are we talking about here? We are talking about two basic problems that make everything hard to understand. Problem number one, we're not spiritual. We think we are, but we're not. First off, we don't even know what the word means. In most churches, it's never been defined. We'll get to that, the definition that is. But we do need to get to this first problem. What does it mean to be spiritual? Very, very simply, this. One word, holiness. Everything we're supposed to do is summed up in that one word. How many times in your church or synagogue or place of worship do you hear that word? Very rarely. That's what the whole thing is about. To be holy, to be a spiritual person, means, very simply, that the information gathering that we normally experience, which comes through a combination of the five senses, sight, smell, taste, touch, hearing. With the exception of hearing, which is very spiritual. Scripture tells us that. For faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of Yahweh. The other four senses take a back seat. Everything experienced through the four senses is what I call the 800-pound gorilla in the room. They can be summed up in one word: finances or money. Because everything material is either bought or sold through an exchange medium, money. And so that becomes the 800-pound gorilla in the room. As soon as you leave church, the first thing you start thinking about are your money issues. What am I going to do today? How am I going to do it? Where's the money come from to do it? The Bible calls that concern the flesh. And it also deals with that earthly side of our emotions. The spirit of man, our emotions, which is a part of our soul.